Live from Orlando, Florida, you're now listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Orlando Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the OZone Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings and part of the Basketball Podcast Network. We are your host, Al, myself, Anthony. Today is Friday, December 9th. What's going on, Al?
What's going on?
What's up, man? In today's episode, we're gonna do a little recap of the games from this past week. Jonathan Isaac being assigned to the Lakeland Magic, and some updates around Paolo Banchero. But before we get into those episodes, I wanted to kind of just drop a little comment that we've read actually just a few moments before we started the podcast. We weren't initially going to talk about it, but why not? So Shaquille O'Neal just came out with his brand new documentary on HBO, and there was some quotes coming from Penny Hardaway pretty much saying, and I'll pull up the exact quote right here, stating that, man, it was weird to watch him go to LA and to win championships. I really felt like Orlando had the same talent. We would have been able to mold the team around Shaq and myself. I was happy for him, but I was like, man, it should have been me. And I feel like this isn't the first time that we've heard this from Penny Hardaway. There's one thing that, we've at least got the vibe from or heard a little bit. If you remember the documentary that came out, This Magic Moment, Shaquille O'Neal had, he always has high praise in regards to Penny Hardaway. He always talks about how, Penny was the Kobe before Kobe, and he always talks really highly about him. But it's a reminder that in a different universe, in this multiverse somewhere out there, not here, but in other places, the Orlando Magic would have about at least 9 championships at this point. From the what ifs to, Shaquille O'Neal actually panning out for the Orlando Magic more than it's his very short, tenure here. But when you hear comments like that, I mean, what does it do to you? Does it hurt you a little bit? Is it just like, dude, get over it? Like when you really dissect it, like what are your thoughts? What do you take from those comments?
I mean, I think there's a bit of pain in there, but also a little bit of like, hey, we got to get over this, because we know that if they had stayed together, they had stayed healthy. In the case of Penny, they would have won at the very least, in my mind, at least 1 or 2 at the very least. So then you add the what if of, hey, what if Tim Duncan would have come to the Magic in 2000 and paired with T-Mac? That's another at least 1 or 2 more. And then Dwight, if they had actually stayed together, that core that they had, instead of breaking it up, keep it together a year or 2 longer, you never know, maybe another championship there. So you're looking at about maybe 4 to 5 rings in a matter of 20 something years in Magic history, 30 years. Man, I would trade anything in the world to be able to say that we got at least 2 championships, or 1 for that matter. Instead, we sit here today and we look back at these quotes and we're like, man, what could have been? But I agree with him. I think if they had stayed together, for sure, at the very least, 2 championships in the city of Orlando.
Yeah, and I'm reading some of the comments in regards to like people posting underneath the quote that we read. People are, I don't know if they just didn't know or understand who Penny Hardaway was, but mad disrespectful, talking about how that there's no way that Shaq would have been able to win or been as successful with Penny Hardaway as he was with Kobe Bryant. Like I think that I'm not saying Penny Hardaway was better than Kobe. I'm not even getting into that type of debate. No. But man, Penny was nice, man. Nice. And he was so ahead of his time. Like you look at a player that was so athletic, big combo guard. Like the dude was nasty with his offensive aggression to playmaking to all the above, man. It sucks in a way that people forget him just because his time of elite status was very, very short-lived. And one of the things that I love is the fact that he is coaching in Memphis, and he's kind of keeping that alive. Like if anyone were to ever question him in any way, all this man has to do is like show a highlight reel of his best plays, and that's a wrap, man. Just shut up, sit down, listen to me, man. I got I got the medals, the credentials to be able to really know what I'm talking about because Penny was that dude.
He was, man. I mean, again, like you said, we cannot compare Kobe to Penny. That's a whole different conversation. But not only Penny and Shaq, but the team they had around them, right? So they had Horace Grant, they had all this shooting around the team. So they had a team that was built to win. It's just a matter of Shaq leaving a little bit too early, unfortunately, for reasons we already know. But if you leave that team together 3, 4 more years, again, unless injuries got in the way, which eventually they caught on to Penny. If that was the case, maybe that gets in the way. But if it didn't, that's another what if, right? I don't see how the NBA at that time can stop Shaq and Penny at their prime going at it every night with the team they had built in Orlando. Just, I think at the very least, one ring for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the Magic is still a really, really young team. If you're comparing like age compared to Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, like teams like that. And the Magic have already made it to the finals at least twice. And something that's always been my argument is that the Magic always find a way to get back on top, right? We always find a way. From Shaq era to Dwight era, and now we're kind of going into what I'm hoping is a Paolo Banchero era. I think that these last decade has been really, really, really rough, man.
Rough.
The Vooch, Evan Fournier, Aaron Gordon era, to where we've kind of lost our argument, in a sense, where we really is kind of like, yeah, man, we haven't had a great product on the floor. It is what it is, and there's absolutely nothing that we can do about it because we went through, that rebuild. And then we're turning that rebuild down to then go into this rebuild that we're in now. And I think, that adds a lot of the frustrations to the Magic fan base. People want to start winning now just because we've been losing for a really, really long time. And I think that, we were promised a championship by 2030. Right?
We're getting there. 7 more years.
Yeah, we're but I mean, if you were to really like fast forward time, right? 7 years is a very, very polished Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero, right?
That's
very,
their
very
prime.
polished. Yeah. You're looking at what Paolo being 27 years old, 27, 28. So you're looking at the Magic at that point really, really competing in an East that 5-6 years from now is going to look really, really different. You're not scared of the Kevin Durant's anymore. Giannis is going to be a lot older, obviously. The heavy hitters in the East, there's going to be a whole new crop. You're still going to have to, battle out with, the Jason Tatums of the world and whatnot. But, I think that we're rebuilding at the right time. And we're really, really fortunate to be in the position that we're at because we'll talk a little bit more about it in a little bit. But, the Magic have, we have a lot of paths that we can go through, right? The new draft pick, Chicago pick. What will the Magic do with it? We have to eventually consolidate the young pieces that we have. Do we trade those in to be able to get more vet players? Do we trade it in to be able to bring, the Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers, similar to what they did on that team for us? I honestly couldn't even tell you who that player would be for us. Like I couldn't win. When we started talking about like free agency and trade pick, like I have no idea who the hell I would go after. I'm so confused by our roster. Like we have a lot of great young pieces, but I honestly I have no idea. There's like I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
It's going to come down to filling the pieces or filling the voids of those players that are young right now that never develop. So God forbid, I'll throw a name out there. God forbid Jalen Suggs cannot stay healthy, cannot play well, can never shoot the ball like we expect him to. Well, guess what? That means we need either a point guard or a shooting guard. So you have to go out there and replace that, the 5th pick in the draft that you had high hopes for. You got to either trade him to replace him or something along those lines. J.I. can never come back and stay healthy. Well, guess what? We got Paolo now that is basically replacing him. So it's honestly, I keep saying this, we cannot fall in love too much with anyone in this roster besides maybe Paolo now, Franz. And that's about it because everyone else is being tested, everyone else being observed to see how they fit around those two guys. And I think that's how you're going to figure out what do we need. Is it a point guard? Is it a shooting guard that we need? Is it whatever it may be? that's how we're going to find out what we need is who doesn't fit around Paolo and what do we need around them to make it work. Because right now it's just we're testing. We're trying to see who can make it. But to your point, the East right now is really competitive. If you were trying to win today, how far can we make it? Play-in tournament, realistically speaking, at best. So I think we'll talk about in a few minutes that the quote that Paulo had this week. But I think patience is needed, and we need to realize that ourselves. Because even going back a few weeks ago in our episodes, we're talking about playing tournament, winning 35, 36 games. That's ideal. We want that. But is it the right move? I don't know. Not in this East, in my mind.
Yeah, and what makes this season so important is the fact that eventually at one point, it doesn't feel like it now, but at one point this season, we're going to be able to look at our team and say, okay, we're finally healthy, right? We finally got Markelle Fultz back. He's playing more and more minutes, starting to get back into his groove. Jonathan Isaac, we're going to touch on that next, but it comes to a point where now, and I don't want to throw it into the air like that, but let's say, knock on wood, Markelle Fultz does get hurt again. Like at that point, dude, you've already did everything in your power to make sure this kid is healthy, that he has all the support around him that he needed, that it's go time at this point. If he got hurt again, like there's only so much time that you're really able to invest. Like at that point, it's kind of like, okay, so obviously Markelle is not a part of the future. Obviously, we have to go a different direction. I feel like even now the Magic are still trying to figure out, what they have with Markelle Fultz. Like Markelle Fultz, in my opinion, is not set in stone. Like he's
Nope.
like, would you consider Markelle Fultz to be a core piece of this team?
I'll say it this way. I want him to be, but realistically speaking, because of his health issues that he's had over the years, he is not. Like he has to prove that he fits, especially now that we have Paolo and Franz kind of being just two kids that we know we can build around. He's got to fit their play style. But be honest though, like Paolo and Franz need the ball in their hands to create and to do things that they want to do. And Markelle needs the ball in his hands to create and be a point guard. That's what he does best. So that can be an issue right there. So it's going to come down to health and production. Like not for nothing, I know we haven't talked about games yet, but we just come off that great win against the Clippers last night. Yep. Markelle was not noticeable at all in that game. 1 point, missed every shot, had some silly turnovers in that game. Not going to blame it on him by any means because he's getting caught on. He's finally playing significant minutes for the first time since 2020. So it's going to take some time for him to kind of catch up. But to your point, like we are observing to see how do we make this team? How do we shape this team? He's got to step up and he's got to also remain healthy. If not, I believe, and I'm going to look it up right now, his contract is not guaranteed next year. So if he does get hurt again, do you just say, hey, we tried everything we could. Let's cut ties and give Cole Anthony some serious run at point guard, Jalen Suggs. Or if we get one of the top two picks, whatever it may be, Scoot Henderson. Do you draft a point guard and kind of say, we're going to build through this point guard now instead? So a lot up in the air right now when it comes to who's a core member and who isn't.
I really want Markelle Fultz to pan out. Yeah. I really do. You're talking about a former number one pick, a player that was absolute like. So this season, this draft, there was no, consensus number one. For Markelle's draft season, he was the consensus. Like they had already like printed out his name on the back of his Sixers jerseys after they made that trade, and that already put it in the locker room. Like it was done, it was set. Like he was that nice. And obviously injuries was a struggle. There was some mental block that was a struggle as well. He's at a point where he's happy. He's happy with the environment. He has everything at his disposal to be able to be the player that he was, as long as he stays healthy, right? People, they throw these, he's a bust. He's not what people thought, blah, blah. And all right, maybe he's not at that caliber that people were expecting. He's still a really freaking good basketball player. Yes, he does. His 3-point shooting is not great, but you know what? He's not afraid to shoot it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do see a little
Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I do see a little hesitation. Yeah, the shot form was never going to be as perfect as people want it to be, but damn it, he shoots it. Like if
Yep.
he's wide open, he'll hesitate. We got to work on that. But he's just getting back. He's getting in the groove of it, and I think that eventually is gonna turn around. I want to get into the games real quick. But before we do that, I want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon members: Blake Bickerstaff, Court Cousins, Steven, Danimal, Casey Wood, Finn's Fan for Life, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Mr. Mikey, Zico, Dylan, Yadi, and Yo Mama Mo Bamba. I appreciate you guys for the support. We have a lot of great conversations in our Discord. Everyone's really engaged, and we stay up to date with a lot of the Orlando Magic things going on, and we'll be doing a giveaway soon. On that note, let's get into the games. So
let's do it.
Since our last episode, 4 games: lost against Cleveland, lost against Toronto, lost against Milwaukee, and we were really getting to a point where, man, this could get really bad, really, really fast. But here comes the Clippers. The Magic always find a way to kind of reel you back in a sense, where they won't let it get too bad. They'll steal one away. And I called this out in the last episode that we'll find a way to at least win one of them. And damn it, we were able to do that. 116-111 win against the LA Clippers, a Clippers team that had Paul George, had Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, they were monitoring their minutes, but they were still in the game. So we saw a lot of really great things from Paolo Banchero, a lot of great things from Franz, obviously. Mo Wagner is somebody that I really, really miss watching on the basketball court, because you don't expect to see the things that he does, right? You think that he's just an energy guy. You think that, he's just going to come in and give a lot of effort, which he does. But man, he's sneaky good, right? Not taking over Wendell Carter good, but definitely taking over Mo Bamba good.
For sure.
What were your thoughts on that game?
Man, the Clippers. I'm only going to talk about the Clippers game just because the other games were not as great. That Milwaukee score kind of deceives you a little bit. It's like, oh, we made a run at the end, we made it interesting, but it was a blowout most of the game. So those first 3 games, we saw a lot of what we've seen before. We saw a lot of kind of defense being an issue, rebounding being an issue, even with Markelle on the court. The only exciting thing out of those 3 games was we saw Markelle hit the 30-minute mark for the first time, again, since 2020. So we can see that he's finally feeling healthy, staying out there on the court. So that was exciting. But last night, that first quarter was horrible. I think we were down, 16, 18 points. I was ready. I was like, hey, we're going to be here on a 10-game losing streak. It's only going to get uglier because we have a tough schedule coming up here. And what do you know? The second half came and the Magic came alive. And it was a weird game. Like that first half, Paolo didn't have it going. Like we said earlier, Markelle was struggling. Franz was struggling. It was truly just Bol Bol and Mo Wagner that kept us alive. A little Mo Bamba, a little Cole Anthony in there, but it was a mess early on. And then the fourth quarter started, and Franz Wagner did what he's been doing lately, which is that fourth quarter is his quarter to start off. Like he just kind of goes on a little run on his own and gets us back in the game. He did it on Monday against Milwaukee. He did it against the Clippers on Wednesday night. And then to wrap it up, Paolo was amazing in that overtime period. He started the quarter with a dunk. I think he had another layup after that. And then he ended up hitting like 6 free throws in a row, which were huge because he's been struggling shooting free throws lately. But when it mattered, he made them. So it was exciting, man. I was at the game last night. The arena was electric. That fourth quarter, late into overtime, nobody sat down. I tweeted that. I'm like, I've missed that. We got some of that energy the first maybe 5 games that we played at home. And then when the losing started, people just kind of lost interest. But it's funny how the moment the Magic play a little bit better and they give the crowd a little bit of energy to stand up, to cheer, to represent, they do it.
Was there a lot of Clippers fans in attendance?
Of course. They're also Lakers fans. They're also Knicks fans, and they're also Celtics fans. But yeah, you can say that
I always find
Clippers
it. I always find it so crazy our dynamic. Like seriously, like how many fans is there really in Orlando, in Central Florida, that legit have like Clippers jerseys in their closet? Like they legit watch every single Clippers game. They listen to Clipper podcasts. Like they're legit like full blown in Orlando. They're circling that date of when Clippers are coming to town to go watch them. Like teams like the Lakers, I get Celtics,
yeah.
I get, but dude, the Clippers, Like there's not even Clippers fans in
In
LA.
LA. I'll tell you what, the two teams that surprised me the most with that lately have been the Clippers. One, there was quite a few. The Grizzlies, when they came last year, a ton of fans wearing Grizzlies gears. I'm like, wait, what? Like, since when do we have so many Grizzlies fans in Orlando?
But
Um,
oh, like a team like that I understand. I get it. Up and coming, they're fun to watch. But you're talking about a Clippers team that they haven't even had Paul George and Kawhi Leonard like healthy together since they've signed in LA. I find it so crazy. So I'm happy that we were able to get that win. Stuff like that really
mhm,
pisses me off just because it doesn't make sense. Golden State Warriors, I get it to an extent. I get it. Example A, ow, I understand, right? But the Clippers, I don't. It doesn't. I don't get
yeah,
it.
but I will tell you what, there was a lot of Clippers fans, but noise-wise, you couldn't hear them.
Oh,
Maybe
I
once or
believe it.
twice.
I believe
Magic
it.
fans, legitimately, they've been doing a great job this year. I don't think not once the arena has been taken over by the away teams just yet. So the Magic fans that
That's
are
good.
going to games are doing a great job, kind of maintaining that support for the Magic and avoiding those away teams from taking over. But to sum it up, man, I think it felt great to finally win a game. I think we talked about it last week. In my mind, I shifted. I'm no longer going to games, crazy thinking we got to win, we got to win. I'm enjoying my time. If we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. But it was great to finally see again the team win. They needed it, man, because they've been playing so hard. They've been hurt so badly. Just for morale purposes, they needed the win. They needed to come out and just experience what winning feels like on a game like last night, where Paul George played, Kawhi Leonard played. So it's great for the young guys. I don't know if it'll last and we'll win, three in a row here. I don't think
Mhm.
so. But that one win, it was great to see at least.
Yeah, Magic ended up snapping a 9-game losing streak. So really, really happy to see them have that win. Now I have a question, right?
Mhm.
Because that game, there was a lot of conversation afterwards, really about Markelle taking, like the game-winning possession, right? Where he could have won the game. Where we're talking about Markelle Fultz, 28 minutes, only scored 1 point, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 from 4 from the field goal. Like when the game is on the line, who do you want to take that last shot? Markelle Fultz took it. And here's my thing, right? I don't have an issue with Markelle Fultz taking the last shot as long as it's not a shot. like
So you want to
like
lay up.
I'm confident Markelle Fultz mid-range game. I really am. Not yet. Not in the beginning. The dude just got back. Give him some time, right? In my opinion, Markelle Fultz, there was enough time for him to drive to the basket. And he is very creative with the basketball, very creative when he's penetrating, that he can get to the rim, right? I didn't like the fact entirely that he settled for a mid-range. Like I didn't like it, especially if you're already, struggling throughout the game. And I wish that we would have went a different way. But let me get your thoughts. What did you think about that?
Exactly what you're saying. I don't know why that ball didn't get swung to France. Pick and roll with Paolo, and you make something happen out of those two. Also, I'm not a fan of just because the game is tied, you have time on the clock, you let it burn, and you just take the last second mid range or 3-point shot. Like, I'm a fan of, hey, you got 5 seconds left, go. Try to make something happen. Try to drive to the basket, find an open shooter, or try to, like you said, go for a layup, try to get fouled, something. Not a fan. We basically just wasted the clock, and Markelle just drove, took a step back mid range, missed it. Um, so yeah, I'm a little confused as to why mostly would call that play there. I would have preferred again give it to France top of the key. He did that a lot in the fourth quarter. He was very successful. Pick and roll, make something happen out of that. Whether it's Paolo coming off that pick or his brother Mo, something good will come out of that. But I don't understand that either. I think on Twitter people were asking the same question, like why did Markelle twice, not once but twice, had the ball in his hands with the game on the line? That didn't
Well,
really matter.
he's gonna have the ball in his hands because he's a point guard. But man, the last play, coaching wise, the play should be drawn up for either Franz or Paolo.
Mhm.
Like there should be a play for that. That
Or at the very
it should
least,
it should they should have the ball.
or at the very least, you run a play with one of those patented Franz Wagner cut to the basket, right? Where Markel's kind of faking a drive, but then Franz comes and cuts to the basket, easy layup, gets fouled, whatever it may be, something like that. But not just again, just pounding the ball, watching the clock go down, and settle for mid range. I think they were just content with saying, if we miss, we got overtime. That was kind of the mindset they had. But if you're trying to win games, you're trying to develop these young guys, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question was asked post game or, if it was mentioned at all. But I wonder. Like, I would love to hear Coach Moses' response in regards to why did we decide, to go with Markelle. Now, an acceptable answer, something that I wouldn't mind hearing, is listen, Markelle Fultz is just getting back. We want to ramp him up to get him to regular Markelle Fultz, and we know, and one of the ways that we wanted to do that is to put the ball in his hands to see what he's able to do. Like, I would accept that response, because the flip side to that is Markelle hits it. That's a massive confidence booster.
Oh yeah,
right. He has a really, really bad game, only drops 1 point, but in that moment he hits that mid-range shot, game winner. That is what everyone's going to be talking about. People are going to be throwing water all over, like the whole nine. And I like that story. It's not a bad story. At the same time, it's like it to me, it's an easy decision. Put the ball in Franz or Paolo, because with Franz is skilled enough to where he can put the ball on the floor. He is skillful enough to where he can shoot the mid-range. He can shoot the outside, and you're confident with that shot. Oh, by the way, he's also 6'10", so he's going to be able to get the shot that he wants. You're confident with that play. But all right, let's say that Franz isn't available. Great defense, can't get him the ball. Paolo Banchero is, although a rookie, you're living with that. You're living with Paolo. If Paolo completely bombs it, I'm okay with that. One, you're giving the rookie that confidence. You're giving the rookie that experience. Cole Anthony had 2 game-winning shots his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
And with Paolo, he's such a big dude that if he decided to take the ball to the rack and you need a bucket, that's an easy trip to the foul line.
Yeah.
So I just think that we settled for the 2 point. And I wasn't really happy that Markelle Fultz was the guy to take that shot. I would have liked to see. I'm not angry with it. Like, don't get it confused. I'm not angry that he took it. But afterwards, I was kind of like,
yeah.
Like, why?
I think it falls on coaching, right? Because Markelle had 20 points on Monday night. So if this whole situation had happened on Monday, Markelle had 20 points, season high, you see him kind of playing well, go for it, because correct. He has it going.
Exactly.
But you're telling me that this guy, again, 0 for 4, foul trouble most of the game, didn't have it. I mean, I've seen Markelle play multiple times. He didn't have it last night. Whatever it was, I don't know what the reason was. He didn't have it. So as a head coach, you got to know, hey, that's not the move. I love you, Markelle. Next time it's you. But tonight, Franz had it going in the fourth quarter. Paolo was picking it up. So you got to be able to recognize those little things. But it's mostly, man. Mostly we'll make some weird decisions at times, and we have to live with it.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, really good game. That's the type of game that you want to be able to see. You and I, we've had this conversation already. We're not losing ourselves to like, damn, I can't believe we lost again. And we're just gonna ride out the season. We're gonna go with the flow. We're gonna kind of go with what they give us, and all that we can really ask for is a competitive game. And we definitely had that. A little inside. My wife is due any moment now for us to be able to have a baby. Due date is literally like now. Like, I might have to jump off this podcast in the next few minutes if she starts dilating. But I was watching this game because we had to go to the hospital. I was watching the game at the hospital, and man, while we were in the waiting room, I'm watching the game on my cell phone. I got the AirPods. We were in the waiting room for about 2 hours, so I was able to watch the game peacefully for like the first time in a long time. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword. But it was really hard for me to like control my emotions. Like, you got people in this room that aren't feeling good. People are crying. People are really upset. I kind of felt bad because I had to hold my composure. But I say that to say this, man. It was a great competitive game, and I think that's the outcome that you want. Win or lose, you want to be able to watch these guys play competitively. You want them to play good basketball, good effort. You want them to dive on the floor. Like I saw Kevon Harris, like just deep diving, just
Hmm.
full blown, full body in the air. Dennis Rodman, arm out, like just giving his all on the floor. And you want to see that effort. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and to your point, that's all we can ask for, right? So me and you both said it last week. We kind of gave up on this crazy hopes of, hey, playoff run. If it happens, we're rooting for that. Please, let's make the playoffs. If that's the case, playing great. But realistically, let's be honest. It's a draft year. We know it. Multiple teams are doing it. But all we can ask for is that play with energy, play hard, let these young guys grow in an environment where they're being challenged. What we saw last week, what we saw even earlier in the week, getting blown out by 20 points by halftime. That's not fun. Nobody's getting better in that environment. Nobody's playing for fun
Exactly.
anymore. So play hard, go out there and compete, and keep games close. In my mind, anything under 10 points, the Magic got a chance because they got a young team that can make a run at any time. Whenever I see the score in the 20 range, it's you can see the morale of the team is completely gone. They don't want to be there, just like we don't want to be watching the game. So just compete, play hard, and as fans, honestly, forget about the score. Like we know, if you don't know yet, please know it. We're playing the draft game again. We are like that's gonna happen. So enjoy this, guys. Watch him develop, watch him grow this season, and we'll see what next year brings.
Yeah, man. These are like this Clippers game was a meaningful game. Playing against
Mhm.
Giannis is a meaningful game. Playing against a really competitive team like Cleveland, these are meaningful games. So when we're getting blown out, like, yes, you can find things to learn from it, but these guys are going to develop the best when they're matching their talent, their level of basketball with these competitive teams,
Yep.
right? Being able to watch Paolo Banchero hit two really big clutch free throws back to back is really important for his development because in that environment he could get tensed, he can get tensed up and miss those free throws.
Yep.
But this is the added value that you get from a player that played in Coach K's final season at Duke, that had all the lights, the cameras, everything on him, all the pressure in the world. He's able to carry that. That's something that that's something that not every player in this draft is able to take with them. And in those pressure moments, Paolo was able to deliver. Definitely
Yep.
overall, even though it's a really, really bad start to the game, really, really fun basketball game to watch.
For sure. Now, before we transition, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on Bol Bol? So we are obviously all in awe with what this kid can do. Obviously, he's played really, really well. One of the best, up and coming players, if you ask me, in our roster right now. But I do want to ask you one thing I've noticed with him, a little trend. Bol will have a great game where he'll, like last night, highlight plays, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks, filling up the stat sheet and making it look good out there. Then he has a game where he scores 2 points, no rebounds, and just kind of disappeared the whole game. What are your thoughts on that, number one? And number two, what can coach mostly do to avoid that from happening? Because I feel like it's becoming a trend where he either is involved in the offense or he is not the entire game. What are your thoughts on Ball so far?
Yeah, he still hasn't played 82 games yet. In
Yep.
my eyes, he's still a rookie. Against the Clippers, he dropped 20 points. Against the Bucks, he only scored 2 points. Like you're going to get these inconsistencies, and I'm okay with it. I know that there's a lot of people out there that kind of look at Bol as a player that he's only playing as much as he's playing because we have injured players, and once these injured players come back in, his role is going to be reduced a little bit. I think that he is a player that is awfully unique. There's not another player in the NBA that can really do what he does at the level that he does it. But it's fun. It's fun to watch, and he impacts the game. Do I want
Sure
his
does.
defense? Do I want his defense to be a lot better? 100%. Yes, I do. He does. He does great at perimeter blocking, but defense isn't just about blocking. You have to be
Mhm.
able to do a little bit of everything. Does he turn over the ball more often than he should? 100%. He's not perfect. You can nitpick any little thing from any one of our players. Inconsistencies is going to happen. I want him to play more consistent basketball. Like you can't go off and then just drop 2 points. Like you can't do that. Markelle can do that because he's still coming back from his injury. But he hasn't played 82 games yet. In my eyes, he's still a rookie, And I think that, eventually he's going to be able, the more exposure that he gets, the more experience that he gets, it's only going to add more and more value to, what he's able to bring to the court.
Yeah, that's my exact same thought process. I think that it's inconsistent because he hasn't really played out that much. He's still kind of figuring things out. What I would like to see, though, and I don't even think we see this very often from Mosley, like running plays for certain players. I don't think we ever run a play for him. I think it's more of kind of in the flow of the offense. He gets it going. I would like to see when he has 2 points. It's the third quarter. Run a play for him some way somehow. Get him to the free throw line. Get him an open look from 3-point range. Because again, to watch him play 20, 25, 30 minutes and put up 2 shots and score 0 points doesn't make too much sense as a starter. But other than that, that's the only thing that I want to kind of for us to discuss. Because other than that, this kid has been amazing so far. Way better than we could have ever expected when we got him from the Celtics. I mean, nobody had this coming.
Yeah, and nobody at all. And I think that it's one, a great basketball story. Two, there's no way that he's not in the conversation of most improved player. He's definitely has to be in that conversation. So I mean, we'll see what happens. It's still early on in the season. Transitioning into Jonathan Isaac. If you haven't heard, I know that you have, but if you haven't heard, Jonathan Isaac has been assigned to the Lakeland Magic to get more practice time. So pretty much what they're doing, he's not going to play any Lakeland Magic basketball games from my understanding. This is just for him to be able to do some practicing. He has done some 5-on-5 basketball, outside of Lakeland, right? But it's only with the coaches. It wasn't with actual basketball players. So he was actually finally able to run some 5-on-5 with basketball players, with professional athletes. So really, really good sign of him returning. But what are your thoughts on the Magic finally making that next step, that next progression of maybe potentially seeing Jonathan Isaac in the very, very near future?
I think it's a deja vu moment for me of last year with Markelle Fultz. It was around the same time last year that we heard, hey, Markelle's going to start training with Lakeland. Again, not playing in games, just going to practice. So it gave me a deja vu. Like, all right, I think I've seen this story before. The concerning part is Markelle didn't really come back until late February, since it was first announced that he had joined Lakeland in December. So it took 2 months before we saw Markelle come back. With the way that JI is being treated, I would not be surprised if that carries on till March at some point. Again, I hope that I'm wrong.
Oof.
But all of that to say, we've said it before in this podcast. I'm not counting on JI. JI doesn't exist as a Magic player at this moment. He's a great individual off the court, like him as a human being. As a Magic player, like if I'm putting a roster by memory, I'm not thinking JI right now because, again, we haven't seen this kid play in almost 3 years. So I hope he gets back. I hope we see him back soon. I'm just not thinking like, oh, he's going to be a great, player. Is going to be added to a roster and make us make a crazy run. No, because even when he does come back, he's going to play 10 minutes and then 12 and then 15. So I hope he gets back. It's good news. We finally got an update of some sort. I just don't think we'll see him on the court anytime soon.
Yeah, shout out to Kobe Price for asking the important questions around timetable and return. Obviously, they'll never give us a direct response, but Jonathan Isaac said, I can't necessarily put a timetable on it, but obviously he hopes to play as soon as possible. He feels good. At the same time, he knows that definitely he got tired towards the end, something that he has to keep working on. The awareness piece of it has to keep coming. The quicker we get everything together, he'll be ready to go. So we really don't know how long he's going to be in Lakeland. But the biggest thing is something that we already know is that conditioning is the biggest piece. This is Jonathan Isaac coming out and saying, dude, I'm going out there and I'm tired. Like there's no way that I can play a real full-blown NBA game guarding the LeBrons and Giannis's when he's out there getting tired with G League players. And that part, I understand. I get it. So we know for a fact now that injury is not an issue. Jonathan Isaac is healthy. Right now, what the issue is conditioning. We need to be able to bring that conditioning up before we're able to put him on the floor.
You know what kind of just catches my attention? The fact that at media day, he said, if it was up to me, I'll be playing today. He also said, it's the front office decision or the medical staff decision. So this is when it gets interesting, where he now says in December, I have no timeline for my comeback. So it's kind of like, wait, did the front office get to you, or what
They got him.
changed? Because
They got him.
a few
They got
months
him.
ago you told us you could play, and not only that, he told Kobe Price a few weeks ago, if it was up to me, I could give you 10 solid minutes right now on the team. Well, guess what? If you were healthy today, we don't need you for more than 10 minutes because we know that we're going to take it easy on you to return. So I don't know. That's a piece of it that gets me upset. It's like, all right, don't play with words. Be be straight with me. Like, what is it? Are you ready? Are you now? Because even last year, before his little setback, he had said by Christmas for sure. But actually, I can play today if they needed me to. So it's been a year and a half since that
Yeah,
comment
I
that he made.
truthfully, I hate the baby step process of this all. Like, why do we have to send him down to Lakeland for him to do practice? Why not practice with the Orlando Magic guys? Like,
Well, the problem is we don't practice. Like, if you look at the Magic, and I'm not even saying in a bad way. I just mean like we have a lot of games coming up, and I don't know why NBA teams do this because I think back to like my high school days, right? You play the game, the next day you went to practice, and you practice and you play games. That's what you did all the time. In the NBA, I don't know if it's a new thing, but this year I'm tracking it more closely. Bro, the Magic don't practice. Like they practiced once this week. Today they were off, no practice. Tomorrow shoot around. I think they're having one finally, but he wouldn't get practice time if he just sat here in Orlando. So I think that's why they're doing that. It's basically go to Lakeland, get some reps there, because we don't have time to basically give you practice time with the guys right now. But doesn't make sense, bro. Doesn't make sense to me because again, this guy's been recovering from the setback for 9 months now, and you're telling me you cannot give me 15, 20 minutes a night on a basketball court? That's, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, my sentiments haven't changed in regards to Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac is a player that I've completely removed from my mind when it comes to his basketball team, and it won't change until they finally say that he's ready to play, that he's playing, he's active, he's healthy, he's conditioned. Just because in my mind, Jonathan Isaac is the bonus. Jonathan Isaac to me was our crutch, right?
Mhm.
The team can only go as far as Jonathan Isaac was able to help us get carried to, right? Nikola wasn't enough, Evan was enough, Aaron Gordon was enough, Markelle Fultz was enough. Jonathan Isaac was that missing piece to be able to elevate this team to a point where we were able to make more noise. We never got to that point. It got to the point that we kept waiting for him to be healthy and waiting and my God, waiting some more. Like it just didn't stop. And that's why I consider this draft to be so important for us because now we can wait as long as we want. Like, go ahead. Like, honestly, if you're right and he doesn't play until March, I'm not upset. I'm not upset anymore. I've lost my emotional capacity to be upset with Jonathan Isaac
Yeah.
not playing. You know what I mean? And the fact that we now have Paolo, and we have Franz, that allows me to be now even way more patient than I've ever have, and I'm okay with it. Whenever they decide to play Jonathan Isaac, they decide to play Jonathan Isaac. If he has to go over to Lakeland to be able to, do his conditioning, I get it. What's important to remember, and this is something that I feel like I have to consistently like battle people with, it's like, dude, it's not Jonathan Isaac's fault, right?
True.
Jonathan Isaac wants to play basketball. It's not Jonathan Isaac stopping Jonathan Isaac from playing basketball. It's the front office, unfortunately. And my fear, and this is what I'm predicting that the minute that Jonathan Isaac is ready to go, Franz is not going to be available.
Oh yeah, the hand injury. Something happened to a
The
hand
hand,
injury. Now
bro,
they're gonna shut
we're
him down.
keeping we're shutting down players left and right for God knows what reasons. Like I can't keep track of it, right? And Franz, there's moments like even during the game, the Clippers game, there was a moment that he fell, and I was kind of like,
Mhm.
"Oh, get up, you okay?
Yep.
You're right, you're all right. Like, dude, we need you. Like, get up, please." And definitely that hand injury is it to me, I feel like it looks more severe than what he's letting on and what the team's letting on. But I think that the minute that Jonathan Isaac is back and there's not like a minute restrictions, and we may not see like a fully healthy team like at all this year.
It'll be amazing if it does happen and we get to see, even if it's for a month, 2 months, to see what we got. But to your point, it's been almost 2 months into the season so far, and it's been a rotation of guys come in, guys come out, guys come in, guys come out. It's just kind of been the game that we're playing. I know we got to transition to the next thing here, but really quickly, Jalen sucks too. Do you hear mostly talk about his injury and say that he's still hurting? He's been hurting throughout the season, and it's the same injury or the same ankle that he had surgery on in the offseason. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, Jalen Suggs missed a ton of time last year with an injury. Second year seems like it's about to be the same. Any concerns there for you?
At some point, I feel like we're one day going to be able to have this podcast, and we're not talking about injuries anymore. I feel like we're beating a dead horse with these injuries. It's like nonstop, back to back. It doesn't ever slow down. Yeah, I mean, it sucks, man. Jalen Suggs, he's a player that, regardless of your feelings about the things that you do like, don't like, he's somebody that plays with energy, plays with heart. Defensively, he's really, really fun to watch. It sucks to see him deal with this, because I do feel like he was having a better season than last year, and the fact that he's still struggling with this ankle, it definitely hurts, because he is a one player that he needs as much exposure and experience as possible. And it's crazy because, like, even with Suggs missing all this time, we're not, our RJ Hampton is not being utilized. Like, he just had a DNP. Like, you would think that he would be the next man to step in for, Jalen Suggs, and that is no.
And mind you, again, we have no Gary Harris, we have no Jalen Suggs, we have Ross getting limited minutes. The minutes are going to Kevon Harris and Caleb Houston right now. So
I know that we kind of transition away from the game, but you had mentioned it during the game. Like, why is it like crunch time and Kevin Harris is in there? No disrespect to Kevon Harris, like zero disrespect. But he's our two-way guy. Like, why?
Coach Mosley, man, love him to death, but some of his decisions don't make any sense. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's crazy. Injuries are just going to keep on happening until we decide that we're going to be competitive and start trying to make it to the playoffs. All right, let's get into Paolo Banchero. So Paolo Banchero finally retakes the number one spot in the NBA.com rookie ladder, which is awesome and amazing news, because that's where he's supposed to be, man. Like, no one's taking that from him, and we need to hurry up and give him his award now before he gets hurt. In a rookie diary for AP News, Paolo had this to say about the Orlando Magic rebuild. He says it's going to take multiple years. We know it's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. It's not going to happen with one player or one adjustment. This could take 1 year. It can take 2 years. It can take 3 years. It's not just an overnight success, right? So he's pretty much, being the wise man that says, like, listen, the games are tough. You can't expect us to get it all together right away. It's going to take us some time to be able to get there. But what I like about it is, like, the way that I'm reading it is the fact that it sounds like, yeah, it's going to take us some time, but you best believe we will be there. And I think that it's important to hear that from your number one guy, because we mentioned this last episode that we had last week, that he's not used to losing. He's never lost, never this much, right? So the fact that this is adversity, and this is something that he's going to have to learn from and grow from. I think that it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun to see what this team ends up looking like in the next few. But I hate the fact that he said 3 years. Like, do we have to wait that long? 3?
Yeah, I don't think 3 years is acceptable. I think I do like the fact that, like you said, for being our number one guy, our number one pick, coming in, losing more than he's ever had, the fact that he is saying, I understand that patience, it's going to take a little longer than maybe we all want. It's good to hear. It's refreshing, because we're all concerned, right? We're like, oh my God, this guy's going to get used to all this losing and want to leave Orlando and all this stuff, right? That's all the fears that we have. But the fact that he's thinking this way leads me to believe, once again, the front office was honest with him and said, hey, listen, go out there, ball out. We'll play hard. We'll do the best that we can. But I don't know. I don't know if the front office is honest or not with their guys and what they're trying to accomplish. But the fact that he is okay with being patient gives me some kind of relief. Number one. Number two, look around the league. Who are the teams that we've been trying to rebuild with at the same time? It's Houston, it's Detroit, it's OKC, it's us. Out of those 4 teams, the only one that's doing a little bit better for now is OKC. They got, 11 wins maybe? So 5 more than us so far. Everyone else is worse than us or equally as bad as we are. So that tells me we're not the only one that's trying to rebuild and stuck in this land of can I move forward? And mind you, we just started this rebuild a year and a half ago, right? We know that we cannot count the years before. This truly started when we traded Vooch, which was a year and a half ago.
That's right.
So let's be honest. It's not like if you told me that Houston, was 15-8 and they're number 4 in the West and Detroit is playing, 7th seed in the East. And here we are, bottom of the league again. That would be painful. Because I'm like, man, like these teams around us are building and they're doing it right. Why can't we? So with that being said, I do think that there is a path towards where we want to be. I think that Paolo understands that path. I think France does as well. Nobody likes to lose. And I do see that all these injuries and the ins and outs of players coming in, coming out, it has to do with testing them to say who fits in with this team, who can handle the longer minutes, fitting in with Paolo, fitting in with France. Eventually, we got to see everyone together to see how they all look together. But it's weird what's going on right now. And very quickly back to J.I., I wouldn't be surprised if all this J.I. thing hold up is you move Mo Bamba at some point because maybe he's not fitting in. And now you open up minutes for J.I. to play that 4 or 5 position, whatever it may be, because now Bamba is no longer on the team. RJ Hampton, if you end up trading him, now you got minutes for whoever else that's a guard needs to get more minutes. So it's kind of weird what's going on with the team right now. We won wins, but I think, like Paolo was saying, let's be realistic. Teams around us are not much better than we are. Those that are rebuilding. It's an amazing draft coming up. And what I'm hearing is a 24 and 25 draft are not that great. So this is the draft. If you want to tank one more time to do it for, that's what we're doing. So it just, we need those ping pong balls to bounce our way to add more talent to what we already have. Because if that's the case, it'll be amazing. If we end up dropping, it's all for nothing. But it's refreshing. But at the same time, it's kind of like, man, we won wins. We're craving that badly in Orlando.
Yeah, just one more. What's one more draft? It's one more year.
I'm cool with that. I'm not cool with 3. That would be ridiculous. We're looking at what, 2026?
Nah, man, we can't wait that long.
No,
we can't wait that long. We've been waiting enough. Yeah, no, we can't do that. All right, man. This week ahead, we got Friday. So today against the Raptors, Sunday against Raptors, Wednesday against good old Atlanta Hawks. I really don't like the Hawks. I really don't like the Hawks like at all.
Good thing is DeJounte Murray got hurt, so he actually won't be playing in that game. We play them twice in the next 2 weeks. He won't be playing either one of those games, so we won't have to see him and his little antics on the court at least.
I really don't like the Hawks. Let's get that W. All right, man. On that note, really good episode. We'll see what ends up happening with Jonathan Isaac, man. I hope that his time in Lakeland isn't as long as we're kind of predicting. But that's a wrap, man. On that note, thank you guys for listening. Catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the OZone Podcast, the voice of Magic fans. For all the latest Orlando Magic news and updates, follow us on Twitter at the OZone Pod and on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on all your favorite podcast listening platforms.